Good morning, everybody. It is a bright, sunny day here in Chicago, and Terry Pappy has joined me, and she's in sunny Florida, so it's probably warmer and nicer there than it is here. I keep waiting for I can see that the sun is out. I want it to start coming through my window to give me a little more natural light in here and take away some of my pale faced. But it's a great day to talk about entrepreneurship and solopreneurship. If don't turn this off. However, if you work for a company, because one of the things we're going to talk about today is entrepreneurship within your company where you are and how to use all of the things that we're going to be talking about within your position, because I think that's one of the kind of hot topics that people are talking about right now. And it's a way for you to keep some autonomy in your and do things that feel really good to you without necessarily having to jump ship and open your own consultancy or something and deal with wearing all of the hats. So if you don't mind what you're doing and that maybe you only have 2 or 3 hats to wear instead of 7, maybe you want to stay where you are, but listen to our conversation anyway. Terry is a fantastic coach and entrepreneur herself. I will say she and I have worked together, so I'm really thrilled to introduce her to my audience. I'm sure I've talked about her in different conversations with people, but now to say, oh my gosh, here she is, check out her stuff. What I really love about Terry is that she has a really wide range of offerings and such a great wealth of experience when it comes to helping the solopreneur and the entrepreneur take off, not just in sales and not just in marketing, but really figuring out, and that's why kind of the title of today is Doing You, how to figure out what works for you. And that's what really drew me to her. Was I felt like a lot of the coaches that I'd had in the past were sort of like, well, do this. This works for my other clients, or do this. This works for me. And then I try it on and I'm like, I don't like this. Doesn't feel like it works for me. How do I figure out what works for me? So that's going to be a lot of the theme today, is how to do you. And I will, in the show notes, make sure that all of the fabulous ways that you can connect with Terry and find her are listed there. She's got her Pappy Club, which is fantastic, which has so many resources. She has a great Monday newsletter that you should all run over and sign up for, because it's Monday Motivators. And it's not just, hey, guys, you're great, go out and get them this week. It's like, do you want to build more money in your business? Take an hour and do these things over the course of the week. So it's actual how-tos, which is another thing that I think is really missing in the coaching world. When I don't know how many people that I'm on their newsletter list, and every once in a while, when you open one that seems to catch your eye, and I'm like, oh, it's another affiliate program. Could we? All you're doing is is raking in money with this affiliate program and that affiliate program. So Terry is here, and I will turn it over to her because I've been blabbing about how fabulous she is. She's written a bunch of books. She's just, you got to check her out. But so Terry, anything you want to get out there that I've missed, or you want to go right into questions? What's your thought on this morning's broadcast?
Well, good morning, Allison, and to our lovely viewership, whether it's on the replay or you're with us right now. I'm super happy to be here, and gushing a little bit from all that flattery. I really appreciate it. And for the viewer, for you listening and watching, Allison and I met through the National Speakers Association, and I invited her to be a guest on my podcast, and I would love to share that with you. So Allison, we need to somehow provide the link so people can listen to that, because it's a great conversation that you and I had when we did that, and we've just been thick as thieves since then. And I've really enjoyed, Allison, watching your progress and the things that you're taking on. And it's such a wonderful evolution to see the things that you're doing in your business and really what you're super committed to and what you're enjoying. And that's what I'm all about, is helping you discover that and find the joy that's going to get you in front of the people that really need you. And believe me, there's a lot of people that need your help. So it's great to be here.
Oh, wonderful. So, and I'm sticking the link here. in the chat. It should be coming up, I think.
Yeah,
There it goes.
I just saw
All
that.
right, so
Yeah.
that's for the podcast itself. So you can go back and listen to, uh, those. Put them, put it in your ears when you're working out or mowing the lawn or wherever, however you're listening to a podcast. One of my favorites is Walk the Dog. um, but I think since I sort of already teed this up, the idea um, of that authenticity and working and what works in your business. So how do you help somebody figure out what that is? Because I feel like there's a lot of confusion around that because a lot of people talk about authenticity but yet we are still bombarded with all these shoulds. Oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And every time everybody you talk to has a new idea for your business. And so how do you stay focused and figure out what works for you and avoid, as you and I talked about, and as you helped me with, that shiny object syndrome that often happens when somebody says, "Oh, have you tried this?" Oh, well, maybe I should do that. What's your process with folks?
Well, let's first break it down by what is authenticity. And I believe that authenticity lives in the perceiver. So it's not what we're doing to create authenticity, but it's what we're really our intention and how we want to show up. And the vehicle for that is vulnerability, what I've discovered. And one of the things that I've noticed in my journey being a solopreneur, 15, going on 16 years now, is that I had this kind of, I don't know how to word it, whether I should say persona, or it wasn't really a facade. I wasn't trying to be fake, but because of all the experience I had in the corporate world, I was used to showing up as a certain professional, certain credibility, legitimacy, all of these things. So I always portrayed myself and presented myself very professionally, very, you know, and I found that it was squelching my spirit from the standpoint of how I was expressing myself, how I was being creative, and how I was really showing up in my business. And it occurred to me over the last couple of years that, like, okay, and I have to thank my boyfriend Doug for this because he pointed it out. I think one day I was griping about my pipeline or something related to something related to business development. And he said, Terry, he said, honey, when people get to know you, they fall in love with you. It's like the trust is intimate. They know you know your stuff. And then it's like smooth sailing from there. And I'm like, okay. Like at first when I thought about it, I'm like, oh, that's just your observation and you're biased and all this stuff, right? and, and so, but I started thinking about it and I was like, well, what is it about me having that interaction with someone, allowing them to get to know me, that clicks for them, that establishes that kind of like trust that we're all seeking to create with our prospective audience and target clients. And I realized that how I was showing up on those, just one-on-one consults or just having conversations about what their problems were, where they were struggling with their business development, their marketing, their communications, their customer experience, all those things that I help people with. And I was like, I'm not having that kind of like presentation of, oh, I've got my what together and I'm a quintessential professional and oh, I've done all this in corporate and oh, look at all these big companies I've worked with. It's like it wasn't about that, right? It became more about how is Terry going to help these people, and I was really feeling a lot of heart for their problems, their challenges. And I remember a colleague of mine said to me years ago when I was, again, griping about business, because, as solopreneurs, we go, woo. And so he says, Terry, your heart is too big for your business. And when I heard that, at first I was like, I know, and I'm glad. But then I started judging it and thinking, oh, that's not good to have a heart in business and all these things. So I share these different little learnings I've gone through in just how I'm showing up in my business. And I find that when I worry about things, when I focus on things that aren't working, when I have those challenges, I'm not alone, right? I'm not the only one that's having those ups and downs being a solopreneur or even having a full-time job within an organization. We all go through that. It's called being human. And so what I decided was that is essentially what people really need to know is okay. Because we are always, especially in the business context, we're always trying to perform, improve, look good. That's a big one, right? And we want to receive approval, accolade, attention, income, right? And so these are things that are kind of underpinning our need to project this kind of professional, at least that's how it was in my case. But now what I'm being more deliberate about is releasing the Terry and just letting her all out, right? And I mean, that doesn't mean that I'm being unprofessional. It just means that I'm being real. And that's what people want. You know, they talk a lot about authenticity, but more so being relevant. And I believe today and moving into the future as we come through and out of the pandemic situation that has really impacted everything, many in good ways, many in not so good ways. And as we're coming out of this, people have completely different preferences. I know I do. I don't know if you do, but I do. And I want real. I want the real person. And we're always going to get spam. We're always going to get people running their systems, their automations, their funnels and all that crap. And we're all aware of it. We all know what's going on. And we see it coming and we stop it. But I think a lot of that is the attention we give to it. So that's kind of a long-winded, story-based reaction and response to your question about authenticity. I really think authenticity is in the eye of the beholder. They're the ones who say, oh, that's really authentic. That's real. I want some of that. But it's up to us as business owners, people who want more engagement, more income, more revenue, more attention, more people to help and serve, for us to be more real, because that's what people want.
Is that so? For some entrepreneurs that have established a certain style, let's say, and now that we have moved into with all of the constant Zoom meetings and things, I mean, I think it really has peeled back a lot of layers off of things, right? Like our, until we fixed our backgrounds into these fancy things that I finally broke down and bought a shelf, right? You know, I was like, I guess I'm going to have to get the COVID shelf for behind me, right?
Down and bought a shelf.
I finally broke down and bought a shelf. But it's, and people will notice out there like, but
Allison
you feel slightly obligated, but if I'm telling people that they should, what they should sprucing up their background, it's like I better do that myself, right? And but
so you're walking the talk, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm walking the talk, and Wayfair loves me for it.
I'll plug for Wayfair. Ding.
Yeah, got myself a new chair. That's a little more comfortable.
Oh my God.
Still with no wheels, because if people know me, I tell you not to be on wheels, because that's not so good for your body language. But the peeling back of layers, because we have kind of seen behind the curtain of everybody's lives and and businesses. So, is it a gradual process when you work with somebody to kind of try to get back to who they are versus maybe the persona that they created over the years? Or I suppose if they're working with you, they're not necessarily resistant to it, because you would do a really great job of not of saying we're not going to work together, because I can totally tell you're not going to listen to anything I have to say. But is there kind of a peeling back process? I know you do feel and support kind of that introspective, taking time to look within, and she's again, I can't say enough about the Pappy Club, which I need to put in the chat too. So if you guys go over and do and check out that site too, she's got a lot of videos on there, and even guest videos on things that have to do with even manifesting things, or meditation and things like that too. So is it an introspection? Do they go in to then move back out again and peel off kind of the layers, and they don't necessarily have to totally change that persona that they created, but how do you convince them to make it more real, I guess would be the question.
Well, here's the thing about that, Allison, and it's really about not them being more real. It's about them giving themselves permission to share what's all of them, what's really going on. Because I think that we've all been trained, thank you, marketers. And by the way, I'm not a marketer, I'm a creative. I just want to clear that up because I hate getting put into the bucket of marketers. I think marketers have ruined the world, but no offense personally, but I just think, it's put us into these machines that disallows our ability to be ourselves. And I think that the way we've come up in culture from a business perspective, corporate perspective, working for a company, what everybody's teaching out there, it's all about portraying yourself as I'm together, I'm an expert, I know what I'm doing, here's some examples, because that's what they think people buy. They think they buy the polished end result. And to some degree, that's how business has been done for a very long time. But now, because the internet has made everything very, it's like everything's Switzerland, everything's wide open. You got to kind of be your own filter. It's a wild, wild west out there, right? And so what that does is that makes it a free for all. And so we're becoming much more critical as far as what we're consuming. And I'm speaking from a consumer perspective, right? Not a business perspective. As consumers, we're wanting more ease and flow and connection to things that really matter. And so what that means is that's more about relationship selling. And studies have been done up to very recently that referrals of warm leads is still the number one way that any company or solopreneur grows their business. So when you're looking at the way you've been, the persona you've created, as you said, or the way you've been portraying yourself, that's still you, right? It still came from you. It's, even if you're using someone's system or their course template or whatever, you're seeing what people are doing, you're kind of Frankensteining it together on your own. Whatever that is, it's your decision to use it as a vehicle to put yourself out in the world. So when I work with a client who wants to change that, who wants to go a little bit more impactful and invite more transformation from their audience and really have a deeper ability to influence them and be more real, that's when we start looking at, okay, we look at two things. One, how can you be more vulnerable? And the second one, which I'm really starting to get into big time, is simplicity. How simple can we make this? And I can't tell you how many websites, for example, that I come across that the website designer, builder, whether it's the owner, whether it's the individual, or they hired somebody, they make it incredibly difficult to take action, to get what they need right away. And in a clear customer experience, it's like nobody does user testing or nobody really thinks about what is my website visitor really trying to accomplish? Am I making that as simple as possible for them? And so I'm on this big path right now to super simplify my business. I'm consolidating everything. I'm bringing in my messaging. Because over time, we kind of just try this project, then we throw that out there. And, we got 2 YouTube channels, 10 YouTube channels. We got these social media. It's like everywhere. And the more I work with communications and just how people are presenting themselves and putting themselves out there, they're all overwhelmed with how much they have to post, how much they have to manage, how many people they have to outsource to in order to get things done. And what that does is that keeps them from being vulnerable, being real, being closer, more closely connected to their audience, to the people they really want to have conversations with, that they really want to build relationships with, and not come at it from a scale and volume. And I'm going to go from 6 figures to 7 and all this crap that we're constantly being programmed with online. So I really think that, we've just been trained into this pattern of behavior because other people are doing it. It's what's being sold and presented by the marketers out there. And inhibits us from really giving ourselves permission to talk about the things that matter. It's like this morning, perfect example. This morning I went through the drive-through at Starbucks at like 5:30 because I'm an early riser. I'm a lark. And so my neighbor works there, and he was at the drive-through window handing me my nitro, and he was kvetching and complaining about his marital situation. He's having troubles in his marriage. And what was interesting about it was this wasn't the first conversation he's had with me. So apparently we're having with my neighbor, he feels that we're having personal conversations. And I'm like, okay, like, so anyway, I felt like I was conversation hijacked in the Starbucks drive-through. And I'm like, okay, I got my drink. Can I go now? And he's, and so I finally pulled away because there was somebody on the counter who was saying, hello, can you help me? Anyway, so I leave the drive-through, and my thinking about that experience was, I don't know why he doesn't just take action and do something, get counseling, get divorced, live separately, whatever, because I'm so solution oriented, but he was getting a payoff out of the complaint. And so it inspired me to write a blog post about it. So normally I wouldn't, I would write a blog, but like in the past, I would write a blog post just talking about that. And then almost academically talking about, what are you complaining about? Okay. But what I did is I took it a step further because of my own personal development and how I try to learn from life. And I always advocate for, pay attention to what the universe is showing you. And those showing you is the things that happen in your life on a day-to-day basis, like going through a Starbucks drive-through and being irritated by someone who's complaining. And so what I do is I turn that on myself and I say, what is it that I'm complaining about that I'm not being in action about? So basically what I was mentally prescribing for him to do, because what he was doing was irritating me. Like, I don't like hearing that. I don't want to hear someone complaining. It's because I've been complaining about getting certain results in my own business because I've been busy doing this redesign and consolidation of all my stuff. So what I'm not doing is I'm not getting out there and doing business relationship building like I normally am. And so I've had this thought in my head about, complaining, like, you're not getting it done, you don't have the new clients, blah, 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 all this kind of like your mom bitching at you about something. And
yeah,
so
the
I was
gremlins,
like,
I call them the gremlins back there, they're constantly trying to
so there's
sabotage.
always, exactly. And so there's always a fear that's typically behind that, a fear or a judgment that comes from conditioning. I'm getting a little deep here. And so what I realized was that I've always had a resistance to the idea of selling. And if anybody reads my content back several years and sees my videos on YouTube, terry.com, they will see that I always speak to sales because it's one of my largest growth areas as a business owner. I just want to take care of people. I want to create things. I want to inspire. I want to coach. I want to do all these things, right? I don't have to go out and sell it. And that's such a common thing with solopreneurs. Now, that all being said, everything I'm sharing live on this video is exactly what I wrote inside this blog post that I wrote this morning as a result of that experience. See, this is where the inspiration that occurs as you're living life, as you're encountering people, whether they're a client or whether they're your neighbor who likes to complain. And use that as a way to help yourself grow, but also help people understand some distinctions, maybe give opportunities for learning through example. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about vulnerability. So for me to say live on camera, as well as write in a post that goes out in my Pappy Club newsletter about how I see that I'm resisting selling, I'm not being in action, and I'm using this activity in my business to be busy and not deal with that because of all those things. So like all of this growth stuff is important to share because I also share what I'm doing to get out of it. And I think that's what you mentioned in the beginning, was that I provide a lot of practical how-to, because that's where people, get the information so then they can get in action and do it. And you don't learn by, just like doing a course, you learn by doing. That's
Mm.
really how life changes and the transformation occurs, is you have to do it yourself. You're the creator of your life. And so I kind of outlined, all right, we'll just accelerate what I'm doing as far as this redesign or reconsolidation and everything, get it done, and then get back to developing business, but honor and respect that I'm paying attention to what the universe is showing me. And what that is that I have that sensitivity around how I'm complaining about not being in action when it was really just exhibited through this experience I had with my neighbor. So that's kind of a very, very like current in the moment thing that I've been dealing with today, like
Right.
just a few hours ago, that I took action. I got the distinction. I created some value, but I was really being vulnerable and I was letting people see that, yeah, I struggle too.
Hmm. Well, I think that's so great to be in tune with, what is going on around you. And as you know, I spend a lot of time trying to get people to take blinders off and just like, I always call it listening with your eyes, because I want them to open their eyeballs and just get out of their phones and out of their computers and just look at people, right? I mean, just so just like your example, it would be if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh my gosh, somebody was doing XYZ," and they try to show me some version of whatever it was they saw in a coworker or somebody, and like, and I don't know what it was about that, but it just like it turned me off. Like I immediately like, felt this gut reaction of, I just wanted to walk away, or that person really is
Yeah.
irritating me. And so I feel like some of that is that sort of similar process, because then I go
Yeah.
into, okay, so are you try to figure out in your own brain, is the behavior something that you don't like because it's foreign to you? It's sort of a body language thing that you don't normally see, or that that is different from you, or is it,
Mhm.
as almost in your experience, is it reflecting something back to you that you realize you do that you don't like to do, and is it bringing
Exact.
that
That's
up
it
in
right
you?
there. That you just said it, Allison. Whatever triggers us, no matter what the circumstance is, it's not something that we're witnessing or that it's happening out there to us, or we're like, oh, look at that. That sucks. Judgment, judgment, right? No, it's being shown to us and we're triggered because it's something we need to reflect and look upon regarding ourselves. So we're thinking something about ourselves that's being mirrored by an experience that we're attracting. So I know that's a
Ah.
little kind of woo woo, but that is what, and anybody who's in the coaching industry or, does coaching in their business understands this. So when you have something trigger, that's something where you like got to stop and say, okay, why am I? And it's always, the trigger is always a negative emotion that you feel, insecurity, a fear, anger, guilt, judgment. Usually shows up as a judgment, like me judging my neighbor in the drive-through. Oh my God, all he does is complain. Why doesn't he just do something about it? Right.
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 Pull
So
the
it's like you
trigger and
take
just,
that, yes, you
cut
take
the
that trigger
cord,
and you
man.
flip it around and you say, okay, Terry, what are you complaining about? Why don't you just get in action with it? And it's like, I'm complaining that I don't have business. So get in action, get on the phone and start talking to people.
Right. Well, and
Duh.
it's easy for us, to say that, obviously, and then we need that coach or that person to help, hold that
Do we
mirror
really
up
though? I want to
to
challenge you
us.
on that. Do we really? I think what we need to do is just say, I got to do it. Because I tell you what, whenever I get in these modes where I'm kind of having that sentiment and I'm like, I'm not getting, out there enough, I'm not talking, having enough conversations. And I stay in that kind of energy, which is like why this all showed up for me today. But when I get in action and when I start reaching out, and it can be as simple as sending 10 emails or just trying to call somebody or just DMing them on LinkedIn and saying, hey, how's it going? Or hey, I read your post, whatever, start the conversation and be real, be yourself. And when you do that outreach, and when I've done that outreach, I always feel so much better because it's important to me. I love having conversations with people. I love serving. I love helping. And if I'm not making those connections, if I'm not allowing myself or giving myself the space to show up as Terry and, be that person that I feel that was my purpose, to help and to serve and use my talents to do so, then no wonder I'm cranky. So I
Right.
always feel better when I get in action. So I don't think we need a coach or we need, Monday motivators or anything. We just need to make a decision. Hey, I am not doing XYZ that's going to give me, a result in my business or a result in my relationship or a result in my health. We just have to just stop whining about it and get in action and take care of it. And if we don't know how to take care of it or we don't know the steps, then we ask for help. We find help. But that's still getting in action. That's still making it something that we need to address and take on so we feel better and we stop that that's in the back of our mind.
Right. Yeah.
And then the universe shows us good things.
Right. And I think a lot of it, uh, as because sales for me, the same thing with the reach outs, it's still that, I always talk about the 1,000-pound phone, the 500-pound phone or whatever, to pick it up
I
after you
like
call
that. That's
somebody,
good.
right? Because people are always like, I don't want to make phone calls anymore, and the younger people you talk to, the younger they get, the less they'll pick it up, right? Or the less they
Yep.
want to, the less they want to
Yeah,
call.
and
They're
that's a
not going to
story.
answer anyway, blah, blah,
Yep,
blah, blah,
that's
blah.
a story. That's such a story that gives us a pass. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
You
and
got
we
to
tell
call yourself
ourselves
out
these
on that
things.
stuff and say,
Yeah,
really, is that really the reality, or is it just something that's giving me permission to be a slacker?
absolutely, right? You have to be
Yeah.
aware of your own tape in
Hmm.
your head, right? Your own sabotage. You need to
Yeah,
get in there
yeah.
and go, okay, we're gonna cut that little cord here, or prove myself wrong today because I'm gonna make these phone calls, or I'm gonna do, that LinkedIn reach out, because yes, there are bots doing it, but if you make yours more genuine than the bots, they're gonna realize you're the real person
Hmm. Yeah.
out there as well.
And we got to
So
remember it's reciprocal. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not just you chasing them. It's like being real, being authentic, and being 1,000% you as your outreach. They will need to meet you there. And so if they're not going to do it, if they're going to turn their back or whatever, treat you like a bot, and you've really done a sincere effort, you might try email or whatever. You might try a couple different ways because not everybody's doing the same thing. It's so important to know that, it's okay. Let's move on to the next person because it shouldn't be that hard. There are people out there that are perfect fit clients for us. And all we have to do is just be in action, make it easy for them to connect with us, right? On the website, on everything. Here's my email, here's this, just reach out to me and be responsive, follow up. That people are like, that right there is incredible because everybody's complaining about being too busy, not being able to get things that work. It's because they're giving it a half-ass effort. And so that's what's really going to be a game changer as far as how we show up in our business, how we show up in our companies. If we're putting forward the effort, if we're being real, if we're just really, our intention is to show up and be present for people and not get in all the head trash and just be real, then everything will work out. And everything always does when you just give yourself permission to just show up and be yourself.
that's a perfect kind of, I think, recap of everything that we've been talking about.
Mhm.
For the folks out there that are in business, I just wanted to point, or for other people, I have the office, job, just wanted to connect some dots for you in case you're like, hey, you said you guys want to talk about that. The showing up as you and being willing to be vulnerable as you is the same exact advice that I give to corporations and teams. Being the solo person going into their
Mhm.
environment, I have to be very real and authentic and vulnerable, and I need to ask them to be the same with me, because otherwise we're never going to get anywhere. So if you're a team leader, if you or if you aspire to be that team leader, that vulnerability piece that Terry's talking about is really key, anywhere and everywhere. Because if you're not willing to be vulnerable and say, what do I need to work on? Or if you're not willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't know how to do that, can you teach me, or can you point me in the right direction for where to get training to do what it is that you've asked me to do? Or who do I ask in the company that knows how to do this? Where a lot of times, and I think right now, I just did a couple newsletters that were all about asking, just you need to be asking more questions, and we need to put our hand up and just ask people for help, or ask them to be on a LinkedIn Live, or get up our cojones to ask them to, somebody that's way out of we think is way out of our sphere, right? Oh, that person has way too big of a following. That person is way too much further in their business. They'll never want to talk to me. Get up the guts to go do that. And so whether you're within a larger company or whether you're working for yourself, I think just maybe even start small. I meant to get it out yesterday, but I didn't. So there will be a challenge coming, everybody, in LinkedIn on just like ask 5 questions a day. And I actually broke it down in my last newsletter, which needs to become a blog and blah, 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 but I think it was, start with asking a friend for something, or just reconnecting, because we've all kind of been, at least I know for me, there's a lot of friends that I need to be reaching back out to, like, hey, so how are you doing? Because of course we haven't laid eyes on each other for a year. But ask a colleague something, that you would like to know about, so there's like 5 people or 5 kind of questions to ask, and just challenge yourself just to start there. So it feels very Monday motivator like, as far as these little tasks that we can do to just open things up in our business. So hopefully I can get that done today. It's on the list. We'll see. So we're just about out of time. What is now that you're streamlining everything, what is the best and most streamlined way for people to connect with you and to find you and say,
well, you can
oh my
email
gosh,
what?
Yeah, there's like, oh, that Terry, I totally want to talk to her. What's the easiest way?
Yeah, well, I have right here. Just go to Pappy Club. It'll take you to what you need, and just email me. There's like, if you Google Terry Pappy, I'm like everywhere. So I try to make it as easy as possible for people to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk to anyone about this, or like even you, Allison, getting you so your stuff is a lot simpler, so you can get your newsletters out and your challenges out.
Yeah, all
with
that,
one
right?
click, baby.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah,
It's been fun.
That time thing and time management and all that. So
Did you hear that story, by the way, viewer? Allison's got a story too. Oh, time. Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest complaints I hear from people when there comes time to give an objection. Whenever you're asking for something or questioning, they're like, oh, I just don't have time. I don't know how I get it done. I guess I'm too busy. And that all that is a complaint that's surrounded by having to do stuff you don't want to do, as well as feeling the sense of overwhelm, right? And using it as an excuse to not move forward and do something. So
yeah,
all good.
Well, there's a log story behind where the time went this weekend, but
there always is.
That's all right. When your life gets hijacked, because
Allison,
your
fun
husband got
with
his
you
second shot of the vaccine and was down, and all of a sudden you're doing everything that, wait, you were supposed to do all these things, and now I have to do them. But Paige, Paige has been joining us today, so I'm glad that people are mentioning that they've been showing up, because we don't necessarily know. So thanks to Paige, thanks to Therese for being here and listening today, because I think it's great to know that there are people out there. And whoever else is out there in the last couple minutes, throw a comment in there, because it helps us to know. Even if you don't have a question, sometimes it's just nice to say good morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like there. In the conversation, it's like, comment about what you got out of this, right? What was your Starbucks story?
Aha moments, right? What was your takeaway from today? Because there's a lot of great things in here. So as you know, I will take the recording, everybody, and I don't know if there's much to cut out of this one, but I try to always make it a tiny bit shorter, just to make it easier for people to take in. And then there will be all of the ways to get in touch with Terry will be in that description on YouTube when that gets posted. And the one tip sheet that I create as well, what were the sort of top things that came out of there? What were the truth bombs, as we like to say, and put those on a little takeaway sheet for you guys to download off of that as well. So all of that stuff will be happening by the end of the week, and definitely share it with your friends. We'll see you next Tuesday as well. And every week I forget to look at who's coming up because I know who I thought it was isn't. So
it's a surprise.
Stay tuned. It'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise.
Martha next week. I don't think it is, but I just put it in the newsletter. And what is? I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong person. So it'll be a surprise, and you'll have to look on LinkedIn because the announcement always comes during the week. So thank you so much, Terry, for being here. Have a fantastic day, and enjoy the Florida sunshine, and we'll get warm here eventually. But in Chicago, we had a couple 80-degree days that really spoiled us. And then, of course, it went tank. We knew it would, but we always think
that's spring for you.
Yeah, 80-degree days in April are never will never last. Sherry says, yeah, she's got to also listen to the recording because she had a call that interrupted some of the presentation. So great, Therese. Thanks for rewatching as well. And everybody have a great day. We will see you next week. So I'm going to end the broadcast. Have a great one, everybody.